I'll never forget that Valentine's Day. It was the 14th of February, back when I was just turning 17, and the entire high school was abuzz with this forced cheeriness that always seemed a little desperate, as though everyone was trying too hard to convince everyone else that the holiday was actually meaningful. My friends had convinced me to go to this after-school dance at the school gym, the kind of dance that features the obligatory red streamers taped haphazardly to the walls, a punch bowl that smelled suspiciously of someone having spiked the punch early, and a bunch of people dancing to the sounds of the DJ spinning records from the corner of the gym. I was never much of a fan of these kinds of things, always preferring to hang back near the bleachers, nursing a soda and watching the couples awkwardly pair off as the disco ball spun lazily above the dance floor. It was during this dance that the first Valentine was handed to me, though I wouldn't realize it until much later that evening as I was digging through the things in my backpack as I was home from school. It was a simple red envelope, no stamp, just my name neatly printed in block letters as though traced from a stencil. Inside was a generic Valentine with a glossy heart stuck to the front and a message scrawled on the blank side of the card. I saw you standing alone today. You shouldn't have to. Be my Valentine? I notice things others don't. There was no signature, no other writing. I remember standing there for a moment, flipping the Valentine back and forth as I tried to figure out who could have written such a thing, whether it was some kind of joke from one of the guys at school, someone perhaps too shy to admit their feelings to me face to face. It seemed a little weird perhaps, but not so much that I worried about it. I stuck the Valentine in a drawer filled with other things, old homework, a bunch of other junk, and forgot about the entire thing until the next morning. The next year came around, and I had mostly forgotten about it. I was now 18 and working part-time at a coffee shop downtown after school, the kind of place with old wooden counters and regulars who tipped in change. Valentine's Day came on a weekday, and I was stuck wiping down tables during the evening rush, dodging couples who lingered over lattes as if they had nowhere else to be. When my shift finally let out around 9, I walked to my car in the back parking lot, the jingling of my keys in my pocket and the crisp air that made my breath fog up as I walked out into the cold winter night. And there it was again, stuck under the windshield wiper this time, the same red envelope, the same precise block letters with my name on it. This time, though, there was a small photo clipped to the front of the envelope. Not a digital one either, a real printed photo of me behind the counter that morning, steaming the milk for someone's order, my apron smeared with coffee grounds. On the back of the photo, in the same handwriting as the message inside the envelope, it read, "You work so hard every day. I like how you smile at the customers, even when you're tired. Happy Valentine's. I'm still noticing." And suddenly, it clicked into place that this was not a coincidence. Clearly, someone had been close enough to take that picture without me seeing, close enough to know my schedule. I looked around the empty lot and saw no one. The shadows between the parked cars looked long in the sodium lamp lighting. My hands were a little shaky as I drove home. That night, as I went to bed, I thought about the day and tried to put faces to some of the regulars. Was it the man who always ordered a black coffee and read the paper? Was it a man from school who had followed me to work? I didn't mention anything to my parents. They had their own problems, fighting about bills and whatever. It didn't seem worth mentioning. So I made a point to lock the doors of my car right away and looked over my shoulder a lot. But life goes on. By the 3rd year, I had graduated and was living in a small apartment near the community college where I was taking classes, trying to figure out what to do with my life while working at yet another job, this time stocking shelves at a grocery store on the night crew. I had gone out with a couple of people, but nothing too serious, and Valentine's Day was just another day to get through. I came home late that evening, my feet killing me from hours of standing on concrete, and found the envelope in my mailbox, along with junk flyers and a utility bill. Same type of envelope, same neat printing of my new address, as if it was no big deal. Inside, I found a gift card to the bookstore on campus, $20, just what I would have spent on notebooks, and a note. I know you're studying hard now. Saw you in the library last week, highlighting those pages. This is for you. Thinking of you on our day. That one kept me up for nights. How did they know about the library? I had never mentioned my routine to anyone, and my social media was locked down to friends only. I had never even shared that stuff online anyway. I began to mix things up, taking different routes to class, studying in coffee shops, even changing my work schedule if possible. I figured it was probably just some old classmate playing a long game, someone harmless but determined. The paranoia grew inside me, however, gradually, as the rain continued to fall, as the nights drew darker, and as I wondered about every glance from strangers, every car that lingered in front of my house. I told the roommate about it, showed her the card, but she just kind of rolled her eyes and said it sounded romantic, like the idea of the secret admirer from the movies. I never brought it up around her again, and the envelope went back into the box under my bed, along with the other ones I had kept, for some reason, even though I had no idea why. Year 4 crept in quieter. I was seeing someone by then, a guy from one of my classes, named Alex, easygoing, reliable, the type of person who would remember little details without making a fuss about it. We had planned a quiet dinner at this Thai place I liked, nothing fancy, just pad Thai and spring rolls under string lights on the patio. The evening was going fine, easy conversation about school and the weekends, until we got back to my place, and there, bold as you like, was the envelope, taped right to the door frame. Alex spotted it first, made a joke about me having options, but I just laughed, waited until he was busy pouring water from the tap to go out into the hallway to read the card under the light. It was illustrated, a cartoon of a couple at a table in a restaurant, the same type of restaurant we had just been at, the same type of lanterns, even the menu folded over the edge of the table looked familiar. Not a photo, but the similarity did something to my stomach. The text said, "You deserve better than him. He doesn't watch you like I do. One day you'll see. Happy Valentine's." I crumpled it in my fist, heart pounding steady, and when I went inside, I picked a fight over nothing, some stupid thing about leaving dishes out. He left, confused, and we fizzled out shortly thereafter. I blamed myself, but lying there, curtains drawn tight against the street outside, I thought of someone trailing us to dinner, taking pictures or just sitting there, blending in. I bought pepper spray, changed the locks, and avoided the restaurant, avoided dates altogether for months. The cards were beginning to stack up, a small pile I'd look through sometimes late at night, searching for clues in the paper and the ink, but they were always clean, untraceable. The 5th year, I tried to run away from it. Moved to a different part of the city, a quieter suburb, a place with a gated entrance and people who nodded hello to each other, but otherwise kept to themselves. Got a new job at a warehouse, loading trucks before dawn, the kind of work that left me too tired to think much about anything else. I thought to myself that distance would solve the problem, that this person would not bother to find me. Valentine's Day came, and for the first time, nothing arrived. No letter, no visitor. I relaxed a little, bought a beer after work, sat in front of the TV with the volume turned low. The next morning, February 15th, there was a package on my doorstep, a brown box with my name typed on a label, no postage required. Inside, wrapped in tissue, was a pressed flower, a daisy, the kind I'd picked up randomly from a park near my old apartment months before, and a flash drive. I debated what to do, but curiosity won out, and I plugged it in with trembling hands. The video was brief, silent. Footage of the outside of my new window, me unpacking boxes the week I moved in, putting clothes away in drawers. The timestamp was late at night when I thought I was alone. The note was under the video. "Missed seeing you yesterday, had to come find you. I always will. Belated wishes." Something in me snapped. I called the cops, showed them the video, the old cards I'd carried in a shoebox. They nodded sympathetically, took a report, promised to look into it, but without a name, a face, I knew they were at a loss. They suggested I get some cameras, so I spent that weekend putting them in, the kind that buzzed on my phone. For a while, I was on edge, leaping at every notification. A cat, a leaf, a car driving by. But nothing. I didn't sleep much, had strange dreams of movement just beyond the edge of sight. I went to a therapist, mumbled incoherent stories of feeling followed, but even she seemed dubious, asked if maybe I'd been encouraging someone without realizing. But year 6 was when it really started to get to me. By then, I'd already withdrawn from the world to the point where none of my friends wanted to be around me anymore because I'd been canceling plans left and right, always with an excuse about work or a headache. And besides, they were hours away from me, and I hadn't been visiting as much because I didn't want to burden them with this problem. Yet the letter managed to find its way to my sister's house anyway, addressed to me via her, with a postmark from my hometown like it was a dare. My sister sent me a picture of it via text, making jokes about my fan club. I went up there the weekend it came, my heart in my throat the whole ride there, and opened it up at her kitchen table as she made herself a cup of coffee. Inside the letter was a picture from our last family gathering, me in the background cutting cake, but it was zoomed in on my face to the point where it looked like it had been printed the day before. The letter said, "You have a nice family. I'd like to be part of it someday. Thinking of you this Valentine's." I almost threw up right there in the kitchen, the room spinning around me slowly. Told my sister it was spam mail from a marketing company or something, but she didn't believe me entirely, kept asking me questions to which I couldn't give answers. I quit the warehouse job to get a job working from home as a data entry clerk, keeping the doors and windows bolted shut when the phone rang because it might be them. Days blended together as the nights blended together as I scrolled through my contacts list, wondering if it was an ex's friend or a coworker I'd wrongfully treated without even realizing it. This year, the 7th, I nearly believed it was ending. Never saw anything on the 14th itself. Stayed indoors, blinds shut, ordered some groceries to be delivered so I wouldn't leave the house. Even allowed myself a little treat, some lilies from an online store, their stems already wilting on the kitchen counter. Slept fitfully, phone off. Then, at 4 a.m., the camera app beeped. Someone had been detected outside. The feed showed nothing but an empty porch, but there was the envelope, propped against the doormat like it was waiting for me to come out and find it. Waited an hour before going out, chain locked, door cracked open enough to peer out. This one was handwritten, rough edges on thick paper cut out to make a heart, recent photo glued askew, me at the grocery store pickup last month, loading up bags, my face circled in faded red pen. The text read, 7 years of watching, waiting, enough now. Tomorrow we meet for real. Be ready. I love you. I've been pacing ever since, going over every moment, every card, every increasing level of intrusion that feels like they're drawing a noose ever tighter around my neck. Cops came today too. They're adding this to their files, promising extra patrols driving by the house, but their eyes say what mine do. Without concrete action, it's all just paper and ink. Suggested I come stay with relatives. Can't do that either. Sun's going down, shadows stretching across the floor. I hear cars driving by outside, normal sounds, but every creak of the hallway makes me grind my teeth. Part of me wants to throw open that door and demand some answers, confront that face that's invaded my life for so long. Another part knows that's exactly what they want me to do. Footsteps outside, hesitating for a moment before continuing down the sidewalk. They're out there, always were. The morning of February 14th began the way most of them did back then, quiet, predictable, almost comforting in its sameness. 9 years ago I was 35. Sarah and I had been married long enough that the routines had settled in deep. She left for the hospital before the sun was fully up. I lingered over coffee at the kitchen table reading incident summaries on my tablet, the house still carrying the faint trace of her shampoo when I finally headed out the door. We weren't the couple who exchanged elaborate gifts or planned candlelit dinners. Valentine's was acknowledged with a quick text mid-shift or a shared eye roll at the grocery store displays of overpriced roses. That year, she'd slipped a small card into my coat pocket the night before. Nothing poetic, just her handwriting on plain note card stock saying, "Another year of putting up with you. Lucky me. See you tonight." I found it while reaching for my keys, smiled to myself, and tucked it back in without saying anything when she was already asleep. It was those little things that kept us going, the unspoken understanding that we didn't need the fanfare to know we were solid. Work was steady but unremarkable those days. I'd been bumped to detective a couple years prior, handling mostly white-collar stuff like embezzlement schemes and insurance scams, the kind where you spend more time staring at bank statements than chasing anyone down an alley. Sarah's shifts at the ER were the real grind. Broken bones from slip and falls, overdoses that came in waves, the occasional car wreck that left her quiet for days. We balanced each other out, or at least that's what we told ourselves on the rare evenings we both made it home before 10. Work swallowed the day as usual. I was handling a string of insurance fraud claims at the time, people staging fender benders, inflating medical bills, the sort of low-stakes deceit that piles up without ever making headlines. No urgency, no bodies on the floor, just spreadsheets and phone calls that went nowhere. Around 4, I realized the office was thinning out early. Colleagues were slipping away with wrapped boxes or excuses about dinner reservations. I texted Sarah I'd try to wrap up by 7, maybe pick up Chinese on the way home. She replied with a thumbs-up emoji and a heart. Simple, sufficient. The cases that day were particularly tedious. One guy claiming whiplash from a parking lot bump that barely dented his bumper, another submitting fake receipts for physical therapy he never attended. I cross-referenced dates, called witnesses who mumbled half answers over bad connections, and by 6 my eyes were blurring from the screen glare. I shut down my computer, grabbed my jacket, and headed out into the cooling evening air, the parking lot already half empty under the orange glow of sodium lamps. It wasn't until I was merging onto the main road that the date fully registered. Valentine's, and I hadn't done a damn thing beyond reading her card. Guilt crept in slow, the kind that makes you overcompensate. So I started scanning for open shops, florists with lights still on, anything to show I hadn't completely spaced it. On the drive, I passed the usual pop-up stands cluttering parking lots, flowers in buckets, balloons tied to folding tables, one guy with a van full of heart-shaped pillows. I pulled into a gas station that had a small display out front, a few dozen roses wrapped in cellophane, some heart boxes of chocolates, and one large teddy bear sitting on a milk crate beside the ice machine. It was oversized, plush gray fur, black button eyes, a red satin bow around its neck that looked slightly crooked. The vendor was an older man in a windbreaker, leaning against the wall smoking a cigarette, watching cars pull in and out. I parked, walked over, asked how much for the bear and a dozen roses. He quoted 40 for the bear, 10 for the flowers. I handed him cash without haggling, said it was for my wife. He nodded, stubbed out his smoke, and helped me wrestle the thing into the back seat. "She'll think it's sweet," he said, voice flat. They usually do. There was something off about him, eyes that didn't quite meet mine, hands that shook a little when he counted the bills, but I chalked it up to the cold or a long day standing out there. He asked if I had kids, casual-like, and I said no, just us. He paused for a second, then shrugged and waved me off. I drove away with the bear taking up most of the back, its head lolling against the window, and stopped at a drive-thru for the Chinese anyway, figuring the bear could be the surprise and the food the apology. When I got home, Sarah was already changed out of scrubs, barefoot in the kitchen stirring something on the stove. She laughed when she saw me struggling through the door with the bear under one arm and roses in the other, called it absurdly adorable, propped it in the armchair like a guest. We ate, talked about nothing important, let the TV play low in the background. The bear stayed where it was, staring blankly across the room. Around 11 we went to bed, left the lights off downstairs. I remember thinking, as I fell asleep, that the day had ended better than expected. Sarah curled against me, her breathing steady, and for a while the house felt peaceful, the kind of quiet that comes from knowing you don't have to try so hard. We'd been through tougher stretches, her mom's cancer scare 2 years back, my transfer to a different precinct that meant longer hours, and this felt like a small win, a reminder that we could still surprise each other with dumb gestures like a giant stuffed animal from a gas station lot. The next morning the house was still dark when the first sound woke me. Not an alarm, not traffic outside, but a faint mechanical whir from the living room. Soft, rhythmic, like a lens adjusting focus. I lay there listening, half convinced it was the furnace kicking on, until it happened again. A quiet click, then a brief, bright flash that lit the hallway for a split second. Sarah stirred beside me, mumbled something about the cat knocking things over. I got up, walked barefoot down the stairs, flipped on the lamp. The bear hadn't moved. It sat exactly where we'd left it, head tilted a fraction, eyes reflecting the light in a way that seemed wrong, too shiny, too focused. Another click, another flash, straight from one eye, aimed right at me. Sarah came down behind me, hair messy, voice thick with sleep. "What the hell is that?" I didn't answer. I crossed the room slow, reached out, turned the bear so its back was to us. Felt along the seams until my fingers found a hard ridge under the fur. I asked her for scissors. She brought them without question. I cut carefully at first, then faster when stuffing started spilling out. My hand closed around something smooth and cool, a small black box, wires trailing, battery compartment still attached. A camera. Motion-triggered, wireless, lens positioned perfectly behind the left eye. The flash had been a malfunction, something the manufacturer, or whoever assembled it, hadn't intended to leave active. I powered it down, set it on the coffee table, and stared at it like it might speak. Sarah wrapped her arms around herself, standing a few feet back, her face pale in the lamplight. We didn't say much right then. I just bagged the device in a Ziploc from the kitchen, labeled it with the date and time, and called my partner to let him know I'd be late coming in. We didn't touch the bear again that morning. I called it in as soon as the station opened. Evidence techs arrived within the hour, traced the signal to a rented storage locker 40 minutes away. The vendor was gone by then, kiosk cleared out overnight, but they found enough: hard drives, cables, logs of live feeds routed through encrypted servers. He'd been placing cameras in the large bears for at least 2 seasons, targeting buyers who mentioned children in the conversation. Grandparents, parents shopping for birthdays or holidays. He claimed it was for personal collection, sold access to the streams when the market was right. Hundreds sold, maybe more, scattered across multiple states because he moved cities every February. My purchase was an outlier. He'd let it go to an adult buyer because I paid cash and didn't push back on the price. The flash was a defect in the new model he'd started using. He hadn't caught it before shipping. The locker was a mess of stacked boxes and tangled wires, the kind of setup that spoke to someone who'd been at it for years without getting sloppy until now. We pulled prints from everything, matched them to a guy named Harold Klein, 58, prior arrests for peeping Tom incidents back in the 90s, nothing that stuck long enough to keep him inside. He was living out of a van parked nearby when we rolled up. Didn't run, didn't fight, just handed over the keys like he was tired of the game. In interrogation, he talked in circles at first, saying it was all about capturing innocence, how the bears were placed in kids' rooms mostly, watching playtime, bedtimes, the everyday stuff that no one thinks twice about. He'd watch for hours, save clips, trade them online with others who shared the interest. No kids of his own, he said, but he felt like he knew them all. The investigation pulled in dozens of families. Most had no idea their bear was watching. We issued warnings through every channel we could, but tracking every sale was impossible. Some bears were already in basements or attics, lenses dormant, waiting for motion or a charge. Sarah and I dismantled ours that afternoon, cut it open completely, burned the remains in the backyard fire pit, watched the synthetic fur curl and blacken. We never bought stuffed animals again, never marked Valentines with anything more than a quiet dinner at home if we both had the night off. The case dragged on for months after the arrest. Klein's lawyer argued diminished capacity, tried to suppress the drives, but we had enough to put him away for 20 years on child exploitation charges alone. He hinted at partners during one session, people who supplied the cameras, handled the online sales, but never gave names, just smiled like he was protecting something bigger. We chased leads for a while, IP addresses that bounced through proxies, forum accounts that went dark overnight, a warehouse in another state where similar bears had shipped from. Nothing solid. The dread built slow from there, not just from the case, but from how it seeped into our home. Sarah started checking locks twice before bed, avoided toy aisles and stores entirely. I'd wake up some nights thinking I heard that whir again, even though the house was empty. Years later, I still check the eyes of any plush toy I see in a store. Lift it, turn it, look for that telltale glint. Most are harmless, some aren't. And every February, when the kiosks start appearing again, I drive past without stopping. Sarah and I don't celebrate the day anymore. We don't need to. The reminder sits heavier than any card or flower ever could. But last year, something shifted. I was at a thrift shop picking up old books for the den, and there it was in the back corner, a large teddy, same gray fur, same bow, eyes staring out from a shelf of donated junk. I didn't touch it, Just stood there watching for a flash that never came. Walked out, told myself it was coincidence. But that night Sarah said she'd seen one too, at a garage sale down the block. We don't talk about it much, but we both know they're still circulating, passed hand to hand, ending up in homes where no one suspects. I've thought about retiring early, moving somewhere quieter, but the job's all I know now. And the bears? They're patient. They wait, just like the people who put them there. It's late now, typing this on my phone in the dark while Sarah sleeps beside me. The house is quiet, but not the good kind anymore. Every creak in the walls makes me wonder what's listening, what's recording the small moments we thought were ours alone. We got lucky with the flash, caught it before it could blend in. Most don't. If you've got one of those big teddies from a holiday stand, check the eyes, check the seams. And if you hear that whir in the night, don't wait for morning. Tear it open, burn it, because once it's in your home, it's already seen too much. I've always hated Valentine's Day, not the loud, sarcastic way some people hate it, ranting about corporate greed or how it turns love into a transaction, but a quieter, deeper kind of resentment, the sort that settles in your bones and stays there year after year like damp rot in an old house. For me, the 14th has never been about romance or loneliness, or even the usual cliches. It's been about survival, about making sure the night passes without something coming for me. I'm 41 now, living alone in a third-floor walk-up in a mid-sized city that's too big to feel small and too small to feel anonymous. The apartment is plain, beige walls, second-hand furniture, a kitchen table that's seen better days. Every February, I do the same thing. I go to the corner market the day before, buy a small heart-shaped box of assorted chocolates, the kind with the plastic tray and the little map showing which is caramel, which is nougat, which is the one nobody likes, and a single long-stemmed red rose. Then I pick up a plain white card. Nothing fancy. No glitter or embossed hearts. I bring it all home. Set the rose in a glass of water on the table, arrange the chocolates beside it, and write on the card in careful block letters. For the one who always comes. I don't sign it. I don't address it to anyone specific. I just leave it there, propped against the box, and go to bed early, lights off, door locked, pretending I'm not listening for anything unusual. In the morning, the gifts are gone. Every single time. No wrappers in the trash, no petals scattered on the floor, no sign anyone was ever here except the empty spot on the wood where everything used to be. I've learned not to look too hard for explanations. Explanations only make it worse. It began when I was 15, the winter my parents split, and I got shipped off to live with my dad in a flat gray town in the Midwest, where the sky always looked like it was deciding whether to snow or just give up. New school, new house that smelled faintly of cigarettes even though no one smoked anymore. New kids who sized me up like I was a stray dog that might bite. February rolled in fast, and the place had this odd fever around the holiday that I didn't understand at first. Everyone started pairing off, not with the usual teenage drama of crushes and rejections, but with a kind of grim practicality. Hallways filled with couples who barely spoke to each other the rest of the year, suddenly holding hands in the cafeteria, passing notes in class, exchanging cheap candygrams like they were life insurance policies. I asked a guy in my history class, a lanky kid named Marcus who sat next to me and never said much, why it was happening. He looked at me the way people look when you've just asked something painfully obvious. "You don't know about the collector?" he said. I laughed, thinking it was some dumb prank for the new kid. He didn't laugh. He explained it like he was reading from a rule book everyone else had gotten years earlier. If you're single on Valentine's Day, something comes for you, finds you alone, opens your chest, takes your heart, leaves the rest. No one's ever seen it and lived, but people hear it coming, a steady, deep thump, 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 like a heartbeat that isn't yours, getting louder until it matches your own. Then it's too late unless you've got someone to claim you for the night. "It's not a person," he said. "It's something else. Happens every year. Always someone alone. Police say random killings, but we know better." I scoffed, told him it sounded like an urban legend cooked up to sell more flowers and force awkward dates. He just shrugged. "Believe what you want. but don't say I didn't warn you. I didn't believe it. I'd come from a city where the real monsters were men in cars offering rides or dealers on corners, not fairy tale creatures hunting the dateless. So I stayed single. Turned down the 2 half-hearted offers I got, one from a girl in art class who said it could be just for the day, no strings, another from a quiet kid in band who looked more terrified of asking than of whatever was supposedly out there. I bought a box of grocery store chocolates on the way home instead, the kind with too much filling and not enough flavor. Ate a few while watching reruns, left the rest on the counter next to a rose I'd grabbed on impulse. Went to bed telling myself the whole thing was small-town superstition, a way to keep kids in line or boost local business. Slept better than I expected. Woke up the next morning to an empty counter. The box was gone. The rose was gone. No wrappers, no water spilled from the glass, no sign of anything disturbed. I searched the apartment, checked the trash, even looked under the couch cushions like an idiot. Nothing. My dad was already at work. No one else had a key. I told myself I'd thrown it out in a half-asleep haze, that moving stress had scrambled my memory. But the unease started then, small and sharp, like a splinter lodged where you can't reach it. High school ended. I left that town as soon as I could, chased community college credits to a bigger city, then a job in another state, then another move when the rent got too high. Every February the ritual followed me. Chocolates, rose, card, set them out, wake up to nothing. I tried variations once or twice, leaving them in different rooms, hiding them in a drawer, skipping the rose one year. But the result was the same. Whatever it was found them anyway. Took them without leaving a trace. I stopped mentioning it to anyone after the first few attempts. Friends laughed at first, then got quiet when I didn't join in, then drifted away because who wants to hang around someone who talks about invisible thieves like they're real? Therapists asked about abandonment issues, fear of vulnerability, the divorce I never quite processed. I nodded, took notes, never went back. It was simpler to keep it to myself. Buy the candy, write the card, wait. Feel the small, guilty relief when morning came and the table was bare again. The sounds came later, in my late 20s, after I'd settled into this apartment and stopped moving so much. At first, I thought it was the building settling, old pipes, bad insulation, a neighbor with a subwoofer. But it only happened on Valentine's night, starting faint and distant, a rhythmic thump, thump, thump that seemed to rise from the stairwell or the hallway or somewhere deeper in the walls. It would grow slowly, patient, matching my pulse until I couldn't separate them. I'd lie in the dark, sheets pulled up, listening as it moved closer, pausing outside my door like it was listening back. Then silence. Abrupt, complete. No footsteps fading, no creak of wood, just the sudden absence of everything. I installed a cheap camera one year, pointed it at the kitchen table. Reviewed the footage the next morning. Hours of static nothing. Then a single frame where the gifts were there, then the next where they weren't. No blur, no shadow, no explanation, just gone. Last year it changed. The thumping started earlier, around 11 while I was still up, scrolling mindlessly on my phone. Louder than before, deliberate, echoing up the stairwell like slow, heavy footsteps. I sat up, heart hammering in perfect sync. The camera feed showed the hallway empty, fluorescent light buzzing. My door closed and chained. But the sound kept coming, closer, until it felt like it was inside the apartment, inside my ribcage. I got out of bed, walked to the kitchen in bare feet, set the chocolates and rose and card on the table the way I always did. Whispered to the empty room, "If you're here, take them. I'm still alone. Nothing's changed." The thumping slowed, almost considering, then stopped. In the morning, the gifts were gone. But this time there was a chocolate wrapper on the floor, unfolded, foil crinkled like someone had savored it slowly. I hadn't touched the box that night. I know I hadn't. This year I'm tired of pretending it's nothing. The stores are already overflowing with red and pink, hearts on every surface, couples making plans, singles posting jokes about surviving another one alone. I walked past the display at the corner market yesterday and bought the usual. Small box of assorted chocolates, one long-stemmed rose, a plain white card. I'll set them out tonight, same as always. But I've been thinking about staying awake this time, about turning on the light when the thumping starts, about walking straight to the kitchen and looking at whatever comes for the gifts. I've spent more than half my life feeding this thing, year after year, buying silence with candy and flowers and words no one reads. Maybe it's tired of waiting too. Maybe it wants more than what's on the table. The apartment is quiet right now. It's still early. The sun hasn't even set. But the day already feels heavier, thicker, like the air knows what's coming. The chocolates are on the counter, rose in a glass of water, card propped against the box with my handwriting on the front. For the one who always comes. I don't know if I'll sleep tonight. I don't know if I want to. If the thumping starts again, if it gets close enough that I feel it in my teeth and my fingertips, I think I'll stand up, walk to the kitchen, look. And if it's there, if there's something with shape or claws or eyes that don't reflect light the way they should, I'll ask the question I've carried for 26 years but never had the courage to say out loud. Will you be my Valentine this year? I want to see what happens when the gift isn't enough anymore. I want to know if the collector finally takes what it's been circling all this time, or if offering myself changes anything at all. Either way, the table will be empty in the morning. It always is. But this time I might be empty too. Or maybe not. Maybe it's been waiting for me to stop running, to stop pretending, to finally look back. The clock's moving toward midnight. I can already feel the rhythm starting somewhere far off, faint but steady, coming closer. Patient. I'm not hiding this time. I'm staying right here. Happy Valentine's Day, I guess. The apartment feels smaller tonight, the walls pressing in like they're listening, or maybe breathing in time with whatever's out there waiting for the clock to turn. It's February 13th, just past 8, and I'm sitting at the kitchen table with the lights low because bright overheads make everything look too real, too exposed, and I've spent enough years trying to keep this thing at arm's length. The chocolates are already out of the bag, sitting in their little cardboard heart next to the rose I trimmed so the thorns wouldn't catch on anything when I set it down. The card is blank for now. I always wait until the last possible minute to write in it, like putting it off might make the night pass quieter, or like delaying the words might delay whatever comes after them. I've done this ritual for 26 years, same items, same placement, same quiet hope that it'll be enough to keep the thing away, or at least to keep it from wanting more than what's on the table. I'm 41. I work remote data entry for a logistics company that pays just enough to cover rent and groceries and the occasional bottle of something strong when the dread gets too thick to swallow dry. No partner, no kids, no close friends who come by unannounced anymore. They all drifted after I stopped explaining why I canceled plans every February, why my voice got tight when someone suggested a group dinner on the 14th, why I never answered the door after dark that week. You're always busy on Valentine's, one of them said once, half joking, half hurt. I didn't correct her. Easier to let them think I'm just antisocial than to try describing the thumping that starts in the walls and ends up inside my chest, or the way the gifts vanish without a sound, without a scratch on the lock. I can still remember the exact moment the superstition stopped feeling like a joke and started feeling like a weight I couldn't put down. I was 15, lying on the narrow bed in my dad's spare room, the one with the thin mattress that sagged in the middle and the window that rattled every time a truck went by on the highway a block away. I'd turned down the 2 date offers at school that week, one polite and awkward from a girl in art class who kept twisting her paintbrush in her hands while she asked, one desperate and rushed from a quiet kid in band who looked more terrified of speaking the words than of whatever was supposedly out there waiting for singles. I spent the evening mocking the whole idea to anyone who'd listen, rolling my eyes at the couples in the halls, scoffing at the candy grams being passed like emergency rations. Marcus in history class had tried to warn me again, quieter this time, almost pleading, his voice low so the teacher wouldn't hear. You're new here. You don't get how serious it is. Last year it was a senior girl who said she didn't need anyone. They found her in the drainage ditch behind the football field 2 days later, chest open like a book someone forgot to close, heart gone clean. I laughed it off, told him urban legends don't leave bodies, don't leave coroner reports or missing persons flyers taped to telephone poles. He just looked at me with something close to pity and said, this one does, and it's always on the 14th, always someone who didn't pair up. I went home, ate half the chocolates I'd bought to prove a point to myself, left the rest and the rose on the counter, and fell asleep telling myself I was too old for fairy tales, too smart for small-town ghost stories. Morning came. The counter was empty, not ransacked, not messy, empty in a way that felt deliberate, surgical. The glass the rose had been in was dry, no water ring on the formica, no stray petal clinging to the edge of the sink. The box's cellophane wrapper wasn't in the trash, wasn't crumpled in a drawer, wasn't anywhere. I searched the apartment, checked under furniture, opened cabinets I hadn't touched since we moved in. Nothing. My dad was already gone for his shift at the warehouse. The house was silent except for the hum of the fridge and the distant rumble of traffic. I stood there staring at the spot where the gifts had been, feeling the first real thread of fear weave through my ribs. Not panic yet, just the slow realization that something had been in my home while I slept, had taken what I left out, and had left no trace except the absence itself. High school ended in a blur of half-hearted applications and part-time jobs that paid in cash under the table. I left that town as soon as I could, chased community college credits to a bigger city 3 hours away, then a low-level office job in another state when the credits ran out and the rent in the dorms got too high. Every February, the ritual followed me like a shadow I couldn't outrun. Chocolates from whatever grocery store was closest, a single rose because buying more felt like tempting fate, a plain white card because anything fancier seemed like mockery. Set them out on whatever table or countertop the current apartment had. Wake up to nothing. I tried variations once or twice, testing the rules I didn't want to admit existed, leaving them in different rooms one year, hiding them in a drawer the next, skipping the rose entirely the year after. But the result was always the same. Whatever it was, found them anyway. Took them without leaving a trace, without disturbing a single dust mote. I stopped mentioning it to anyone after the first few attempts. Friends laughed at first, thinking it was a quirky story, then got quiet and uncomfortable when I didn't join in the laughter, then drifted away because who wants to hang around someone who talks about invisible thieves like they're real, who checks their locks 3 times before bed every February. Therapists asked about abandonment issues, fear of vulnerability, the divorce I never quite processed, the way I'd learned early that people leave and don't come back. I nodded, took notes on a legal pad I never reviewed, paid the copay, never went back. It was simpler to keep it to myself, buy the candy, write the card, wait. Feel the small, guilty relief when morning came and the table was bare again, when the night had passed without the thumping getting too close. The sounds came later, in my late 20s, after I'd settled into this apartment and stopped moving so much, because moving stopped feeling like escape and started feeling like surrender. At first, I thought it was the building settling. Old pipes knocking, bad insulation letting the wind howl through cracks, a neighbor downstairs with a subwoofer that rattled the floorboards. But it only happened on Valentine's night, starting faint and distant around 10 or 11, a rhythmic thump-thump-thump that seemed to rise from the stairwell or the hallway or somewhere deeper in the walls, somewhere the blueprints never showed. It would grow slowly, patient, matching my pulse until I couldn't separate them anymore, until every beat in my chest felt borrowed. I'd lie in the dark, sheets pulled up to my chin, listening as it moved closer, pausing outside my door like it was listening back, like it was deciding whether tonight was the night it stopped taking gifts and started taking something warmer. Then silence, abrupt, complete. No footsteps fading down the hall, no creak of wood settling back into place, just the sudden absence of everything except my own breathing, ragged and too loud in the quiet that followed. I installed a cheap camera one year, the kind you plug into the wall and connect to your phone, pointed it at the kitchen table where I always left the offerings. Reviewed the footage the next morning while the coffee brewed. Hours of static nothing, the timestamp ticking forward in the corner, then a single frame where the gifts were there, rose stems still glistening, chocolate sealed, then the very next frame where they weren't. No blur of motion, no shadow crossing the lens, no explanation. Just gone, like the camera had blinked and missed the theft. Last year it changed in a way that still keeps me up some nights. The thumping started earlier, around 11 while I was still up, scrolling mindlessly on my phone to drown out the building's usual creaks. Louder than before, deliberate. echoing up the stairwell like slow, heavy footsteps that knew exactly which floor to stop on. I sat up in bed, heart hammering in perfect sync with the rhythm, feeling it vibrate through the mattress. The camera feed showed the hallway empty, fluorescent light buzzing overhead. My door closed and chained, nothing moving. But the sound kept coming, closer, until it felt like it was inside the apartment, inside my ribcage, pressing against my sternum from the inside. I got out of bed, walked to the kitchen in bare feet, the floor cold against my soles, set the chocolates and rose and card on the table the way I always did. Whispered to the empty room, voice barely above a breath. "If you're here, take them. I'm still alone. Nothing's changed." The thumping slowed, almost considering, like it was tasting the words, then stopped. In the morning, the gifts were gone. But this time there was a chocolate wrapper on the floor, unfolded, foil crinkled like someone had savored it slowly, deliberately. I hadn't touched the box that night. I know I hadn't. I picked it up with 2 fingers, turned it over, saw the little tear where it had been opened neatly, not ripped. I dropped it in the trash like it burned me, scrubbed my hands until they stung. But the smell of cheap chocolate lingered in the kitchen all day. This year I'm tired of pretending it's nothing, tired of the half measures, tired of waking up to empty tables and wondering how much longer the gifts will be enough. The stores are already overflowing with red and pink, hearts on every surface, couples making plans in low voices, singles posting jokes about surviving another one alone like it's just a punchline. I walked past the display at the corner market yesterday and bought the usual. Small box of assorted chocolates, 1 long-stemmed rose, a plain white card. I'll set them out tonight, same as always. But I've been thinking about staying awake this time. About turning on the light when the thumping starts, about walking straight to the kitchen and looking at whatever comes for the gifts, whatever steps out of the dark to collect what I've left. I've spent more than half my life feeding this thing, year after year, buying silence with candy and flowers and words no one reads. Maybe it's tired of waiting too. Maybe it wants more than what's on the table. The apartment is quiet right now. It's still early. The sun hasn't even set, but the day already feels heavier, thicker, like the air knows what's coming. The chocolates are on the counter, rose in a glass of water, card propped against the box with my handwriting on the front, for the one who always comes. I don't know if I'll sleep tonight. I don't know if I want to. If the thumping starts again, if it gets close enough that I feel it in my teeth and my fingertips, I think I'll stand up. Walk to the kitchen. Look. And if it's there, if there's something with shape or claws or eyes that don't reflect light the way they should, I'll ask the question I've carried for 26 years, but never had the courage to say out loud. Will you be my Valentine this year? I want to see what happens when the gift isn't enough anymore. I want to know if the collector finally takes what it's been circling all this time, or if offering myself changes anything at all. Either way, the table will be empty in the morning. It always is. But this time, I might be empty too. Or maybe not. Maybe it's been waiting for me to stop running, to stop pretending, to finally look back. The clock's moving toward midnight. I can already feel the rhythm starting somewhere far off, faint but steady, coming closer. Patient. I'm not hiding this time. I'm staying right here. Happy Valentine's Day, I guess. I've never been good at being alone, but I've also never been good at being with anyone long enough for it to matter. At 22, starting my 2nd year of university, I thought I'd finally figured out how to keep things simple. Go to class, study in the same corner of the library every afternoon, grab tea and a bagel from the campus coffee shop each morning, come back to the dorm, and repeat. My roommate Jess was easy, messy, loud about her social life, always leaving notes on the door when she needed the room for her boyfriend or her study group or whatever else she had going on that week. The notes were annoying, sure, but predictable. I could plan around them. I liked predictable. It kept everything at a safe distance. The dorm was small, 2 narrow beds pushed against opposite walls, shared closet, 1 desk we fought over for outlet space, but it worked because we rarely overlapped in moods or schedules. Jess was always out with friends or at parties or crashing at her boyfriend's off-campus place. I preferred quiet evenings with headphones and textbooks. We got along without trying too hard, which felt like the best kind of friendship at that age. She teased me about my routines, called me Grandma Mia because I went to bed before midnight most nights, but she never pushed when I said no to going out. She just accepted it and left me space. I liked that about her more than I ever told her. She was the one who convinced me to sign up for film class in the first place, said it would be good for me to talk to people who weren't professors or baristas. I didn't argue. I just showed up. A couple of weeks before Valentine's Day last year, I came back from a late library session exhausted, shoulders aching from carrying textbooks and my laptop, ready to collapse into bed without even changing out of my jeans. There was the usual folded paper taped to the door. I sighed, peeled it off, expecting Jess's scrawled handwriting telling me to stay out for another hour or two while she and her boyfriend watched a movie or argued about something stupid. Instead, the paper felt heavier, thicker, like it had something inside. I unfolded it in the hallway light and found a proper letter, typed on nice cream stationery, folded neatly around a small cellophane bag tied with red ribbon. My first thought was that Jess had a secret admirer who'd mixed up the delivery, but then I saw my name at the top in careful slanted handwriting. Dear Mia, I've watched you every morning at the coffee shop, the way you always order the same thing, the way you smile at the barista even when you're tired. You're kind in a quiet way that most people don't notice. I notice. I've wanted to tell you for months, but I'm not brave enough in person yet. Maybe soon. For now, this is my way of saying I think about you more than I should. Yours, hopefully someday. Less than 3 greater than. There was no name, no initials, nothing else. Just the heart at the bottom and the little bag of cinnamon hearts inside the fold. The spicy sweet smell hit me as soon as I opened it, sharp and familiar, the kind that lingers on your fingers long after you've eaten them. I stood there in the hallway for a long minute, heart doing something strange in my chest. Not fear exactly, but a mix of flattery and confusion that made my face warm. I'd never gotten anything like this before. High school had been a couple of awkward hookups and one short relationship that ended when the guy realized I wasn't going to change for him. Since starting university, dates had been rare, casual, forgettable, coffee meetups that fizzled after 1 or 2 because neither of us had the energy to keep texting. This felt different, intentional. Someone had taken time, watched me long enough to notice small things. The way I thanked the barista even when the line was long. The way I tipped extra on bad days, and then written it down without demanding anything back right away. It was almost gentle, almost sweet. I folded it carefully, slipped it into my bag, and walked inside feeling oddly light, like someone had seen me and decided I was worth the effort. Jess was sprawled on her bed when I walked in, scrolling on her phone with the lights dim. She saw the letter in my hand and grinned like she'd won something. Lover girl finally got mail? Let me see. She snatched it before I could protest, read it out loud in a dramatic voice, then squealed and threw a pillow at me. This is adorable. Who is it? Ted? That barista guy who always gives you free muffins? I shrugged, told her I had no idea. Ted was nice, friendly, cute in a boy-next-door way, always remembered my tea order even when the line was long and the shop was packed. But he flirted with everyone, the kind of easy charm that made you feel special for 30 seconds and then forgettable the next. I didn't think it was him. Jess was convinced it was. He's shy. This is totally his style. You should ask him tomorrow, or better yet, leave him a note back. Keep the mystery going. She kept teasing me all night, making up ridiculous scenarios about who it could be until I laughed despite myself. I kept the letter in my desk drawer, the cinnamon hearts in a Ziploc on my shelf next to my highlighters. The smell lingered in the room for days, faint but constant, like a reminder every time I opened the drawer or walked past the shelf. The next morning at the coffee shop, Ted had my tea and bagel ready before I even reached the counter. On me today, he said with a shy smile, pushing the tray toward me. You looked tired yesterday when you left with all those books. I thanked him, felt my cheeks heat up, wondered if Jess was right. I didn't say anything about the letter. If it was him, I wanted him to tell me himself. If it wasn't, I didn't want to embarrass either of us. I left with the tea, heart doing that strange flutter again, and told myself it was nothing, just a nice gesture from a nice guy who probably did this for half the regulars. but I caught myself watching him as he worked the espresso machine, looking for any sign he was nervous or watching me back. Nothing obvious, just the same easy smile he gave everyone. I sat at the window table longer than usual that morning, sipping slowly, scanning faces in the line, wondering if one of them had written the words I kept rereading in my head. Then the second letter appeared, taped inside my usual library cubicle, the one on the third floor near the back windows where no one else ever sits because the outlets are finicky and the chairs are uncomfortable. I found it after my afternoon seminar, tucked under my notebook like it had been waiting for me specifically. Same cream paper, same slanted handwriting. Mia, I see you here almost every day, head down over your books, the way you bite your lip when you're thinking hard. It's beautiful. Will you be my Valentine? I promise I'll be worth it. Less than 3 greater than. Another small bag of cinnamon hearts taped to the bottom. My hands shook a little as I read it. The library was quiet, just the hum of the vents and someone turning pages a few rows over. Whoever left this knew my routine, knew exactly where I'd be, knew I'd sit in this cubicle even though there were dozens of empty ones closer to the entrance. I looked around, half expecting to catch someone watching from the stacks, but the aisles were empty, sunlight slanting through the high windows in long, dusty bars. I folded the letter, slipped it into my bag with the first one, and left faster than usual, the cinnamon smell following me down the stairs and out into the cold February air. My heart was beating too hard the whole walk back to the dorm. Not excitement anymore. Something tighter. Like the walls were starting to close in. Like the campus I'd always thought of as safe had suddenly grown teeth. Jess was thrilled when I showed her. This is next-level romantic. You have to confront Ted tomorrow. He's obviously dying to say it in person, but too chicken. I told her I wasn't sure, that the tone felt different this time. More insistent, like it was pressing for an answer. She rolled her eyes. You're overthinking. He's just nervous. Guys like that don't know how to escalate without a push. She kept pushing, said I should text him, invite him over, make it easy. I said I'd think about it. I didn't. The next morning I went to the coffee shop early. Ted wasn't there. His boss, a tired-looking woman in her 40s with a perpetual coffee stain on her apron, said he'd called in sick. I ordered my usual anyway, sat at the window table, stared at my phone waiting for a text that didn't come. When I got back to the dorm, another small bag of cinnamon hearts was sitting on my pillow. No note this time. Just the candy, arranged in a neat heart shape on the comforter. Jess had been out all night. The room had been locked. I stood there staring at the pillow, pulse loud in my ears. Someone had been in here. Not just slipped something under the door, been inside, moved things, touched my bed. I swept the hearts into the trash, tied the bag shut, and shoved it deep under the sink. Then I texted Ted. No reply. Called. Straight to voicemail. I went back to the coffee shop after lunch. Still no Ted. His boss shrugged again, said he hadn't answered her texts either. I started to feel sick. Not just worried, but something colder, heavier, settling in my stomach like lead. I went to his apartment building across town, buzzed his unit. Nothing. Waited until someone left the lobby with groceries, slipped in behind them, took the stairs to the 3rd floor. His door was quiet. I knocked, called his name softly at first, then louder. Silence. I waited another 10 minutes, knocked again. Nothing. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone when I pulled it out to text him one more time. I called the campus police non-emergency line from the hallway outside his door, told them I was worried about a friend who hadn't shown up to work or answered messages, that he'd been acting strange lately. They sent an officer over. I met him in the lobby, explained about the letters, the dates we'd started going on, the cinnamon hearts, how Ted had been fine one day and vanished the next. The officer listened, nodded, said it sounded like a relationship issue, but they'd check to make sure he was okay. He knocked on Ted's door. No answer. Called Ted's phone. Voicemail. Got the building manager to open it after confirming with Ted's boss that he hadn't shown up or called in for 2 shifts. The apartment smelled stale, like windows hadn't been opened in days and the heat had been left on too high. The officer went in first, told me to stay back. I followed anyway. The living room was tidy. Too tidy. Dishes washed and stacked, couch cushions straight. No shoes by the door like Ted usually left them. The officer stepped into the bedroom and made a sharp sound, like he'd been punched in the gut. I pushed past him. Ted was hanging from the ceiling fan, rope around his neck, feet bare, toes pointing down at the carpet. His face was purple, eyes open, staring at nothing. A single sheet of cream paper on the bed beside a small pile of cinnamon hearts. The note read, "I'm sorry I wasn't enough." 3. I don't remember much after that. Police station, questions, showing them the letters I'd kept in my drawer. They took my phone, my laptop, asked about my routine, who knew where I studied, who had access to the dorm keycard logs. They said it looked like suicide, said Ted had a history of depression in high school, that sometimes these things built up quietly and one rejection, or perceived rejection, could push someone over. They asked if I'd noticed anything off in our dates. I said no. I lied. I had noticed. The letters had changed tone after we started dating. The last one felt angry, possessive. But I didn't say that. I couldn't make the words come out right then. They let me go home. Jess hugged me when I walked in, said she was sorry, that she should have pushed me to confront him sooner. I didn't cry until I was alone in the shower. The water was hot and I stood under it until my skin hurt, until the steam made the mirror fog over and I couldn't see my own face anymore. A week later, I went back to film class. Wendy, the girl I sat next to, wasn't there. I asked around. Someone said she'd dropped out suddenly, family emergency. No one had details. At the end of lecture, a friend from the class handed me an envelope. Wendy asked me to give this to you, said she was sorry she couldn't do it herself. I opened it in the hallway, hands cold, same cream paper, same slanted handwriting. Mia, no one will get between us again. You're mine now, Valentine. Less than 3 greater than. There was a small bag taped inside. Cinnamon hearts. The smell made me gag. I dropped the envelope like it was burning, backed away until my shoulders hit the wall. A few students glanced over, then looked away. I picked it up with the tips of my fingers, carried it straight to the campus police station. They looked into Wendy. No record of a Wendy enrolled in the class. No Wendy matching the description in university records for years. Whoever sat next to me, whoever talked to me about movies and assignments and laughed at my bad jokes, had been using a false name. They couldn't find her. Couldn't find any trace of her on campus cameras, in dorm logs, in the coffee shop security footage. They said they'd keep looking. They haven't called back. It's February again. Valentine's is in 3 days. I still go to the coffee shop every morning, though a different barista makes my tea now, and the muffins taste wrong. I still study in the library, though I sit somewhere new each time, never the same cubicle twice. I don't eat cinnamon hearts anymore. The smell makes my stomach turn, makes my throat close up. I keep the letters in a shoebox under my bed, tied with the same red ribbon from the first one, because throwing them away feels like admitting defeat, and keeping them feels like inviting more. Last night I found another bag on my desk. No note this time, just the hearts, arranged in a perfect outline of a heart on the wood. The dorm was locked. Jess was asleep in her bed, snoring softly. I didn't wake her. I swept the hearts into the trash, tied the bag shut, scrubbed the desk with disinfectant until my knuckles were raw. Then I sat on the floor with my back against the wall and listened to the building settle, waiting for the thump of footsteps that never came. I stayed up until dawn, lights on, door double-checked, phone clutched in my hand like a lifeline. Every creak in the hallway made me freeze. Every shadow on the wall looked like a hand reaching. I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's one person or more. I don't know how they get in, how they know where I'll be, how they watch without being seen. But I know they're still here. I know they're waiting. If you're reading this and you've gotten a letter like mine, cinnamon hearts, no name, just a heart, don't ignore it. Don't assume it's sweet. Don't assume it's safe. Because once they start, they don't stop. And once they decide you're theirs, they make sure no one else gets close. I'm afraid of what's coming in 3 days. I'm afraid they'll decide I've had enough time to grieve, enough time to be alone again. I'm afraid they'll come for me the way they came for Ted. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to trust. I just know I'm not safe, and I don't think I ever was. I get this knot in my stomach every January, like clockwork, when the bills start coming in and the holiday ads switch from snowmen to hearts. It's been 16 years now since Lily went missing, and every year around this time I start losing sleep, staring at the mailbox like it's going to bite me. I'm 53, living in the same two-bedroom rental I had back then, the one with the creaky porch and the fence that sags on the left side. Work's the same too, warehouse supervisor, pulling shifts that leave me bone-tired but not tired enough to forget. I don't date, don't have friends over, just me and the TV most nights. But February always brings the envelope. Same handwriting, same title. Do not open until Valentine's Day. And inside, always a torn piece of paper with some random image printed on it. I wait until the 14th to open it, every time. The police stopped caring after the third one. My ex-wife thinks I'm losing it. Maybe I am. But they keep coming, and I keep saving them because what else is there? I keep the shoebox under the bed, the lid taped shut now because the cardboard started splitting from opening it so often. Sometimes I pull it out late at night, spread the images across the kitchen table under the single bulb, and just sit there with a beer I barely touch, trying to make sense of what she's been trying to tell me all this time. The house is quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the occasional car passing on the street outside. I've learned to live with the silence, but it never stops feeling wrong. The silence is the worst part, worse than the envelopes, worse than the memories, because in the silence I can hear her voice again, small and clear, asking why I didn't walk her in that morning. It started the year after she disappeared. Lily was 9 when it happened. Bright kid, always drawing pictures of animals or making up stories about the neighbor's cats. Her mom and I had split 2 years earlier, messy as hell, with lawyers and custody fights that left us both broke and bitter. We shared her week on, week off, and it was my week when she vanished. I dropped her at school that morning, watched her walk in with her backpack bouncing, then headed to work. School called around noon saying she never made it to class. Police searched the route, the playgrounds, the woods behind the building. Nothing. No witnesses, no camera footage back then. Just gone. The searches went on for weeks, then months, posters with her face everywhere. The one with her missing front tooth, smiling big. I quit sleeping, drove around at night calling her name out the window like an idiot. Her mom blamed me, said I should have walked her in. I blamed her right back. We stopped talking after the case went cold. The house felt too quiet after that, every room holding the echo of her voice or her footsteps. I kept her room exactly as she left it, bed unmade, crayons scattered on the desk, stuffed animals lined up on the shelf like they were waiting for her to come back and play. I couldn't bring myself to touch anything. Sometimes I'd sit on the edge of her bed, holding one of her old drawings, tracing the crayon lines until the paper went soft under my thumb. I'd talk to her in the dark, telling her I was sorry, that I'd find her, that I'd fix everything. The words never felt like enough. I started leaving the porch light on at night, telling myself it was so she could see her way home if she ever tried. I knew it was stupid, but I couldn't turn it off. The light stayed on for years, even after the bulb burned out and I replaced it with a new one. The first envelope showed up 13 months later, February 12th. I was in the kitchen making coffee when the mail slot clattered. Picked it up off the mat, saw the handwriting, sloppy, like a kid's, with the E in Valentine's missing the apostrophe. My hands went cold. I dropped the mug, coffee splashing everywhere, tore it open right there, even though it said to wait. Inside was a small scrap of magazine paper, ripped uneven, with a picture of a banana on it. No note, no stamp on the envelope, no return address. Just the image. I sat on the floor staring at it for hours, heart pounding like it was going to break ribs. Called the police, bagged it like evidence. They tested for prints, DNA, fibers, nothing. Said it could be a prank, someone who knew about Lily messing with me. But who? I hadn't talked about her old habit of sending me holiday cards to anyone. She used to cut pictures from magazines, funny animals, food, random stuff, and mail them to me for holidays when she was with her mom. Always titled the envelopes the same way. This was her handwriting. I knew it. The curve of the L in Valentine's, the way she pressed too hard on the T. I kept the scrap in a drawer, stared at it every night until the edges curled from handling. I started sleeping with the lights on after that, waiting for the sound of footsteps on the porch, waiting for someone to come back and explain it all. I'd lie awake listening to the house creak, imagining her small feet on the steps, her hand pushing the envelope through the slot. I'd get up, check the porch, check the yard, check the street. Nothing. Always nothing. But the next year it came again. The next February it came again. Same date, same title. I waited this time, hands shaking as I opened it on the 14th. A picture of an apple, torn the same way. Police tested it too. Same nothing. They suggested I install a camera on the mailbox. I did. Checked the footage after the third one arrived. A pair that year. Static for 12 hours overnight, right when it must have been delivered. No glitches before or after, just blank. I upgraded the camera, added motion sensors. The fourth year, orange. Footage showed a shadow at 2:17 a.m., too dark to make out a face, gone in seconds. Police said it could be a neighbor's kid or some sicko from the news stories about Lily. They stopped testing after that. Said without threats, it wasn't a priority. I started saving them in a shoebox under the bed, the images laid out in order. Banana, apple, pear, orange, fruit, all fruit. Didn't mean anything to me at first, but I kept looking, kept waiting for something to click. I'd sit at the kitchen table after work, beer going warm in my hand, moving the scraps around like puzzle pieces, trying to force them into meaning. Nothing ever fit. I started drinking more, not enough to black out, just enough to dull the edges so I could sleep without dreaming of her face on the posters. The dreams were always the same. Her walking away from the school, turning back to wave, then disappearing into the trees. I'd wake up reaching for her, hands empty, chest tight. Years kept passing, and the envelopes kept arriving, always a day or two before the 14th, always hand-delivered. No stamp, no postmark, just dropped in the box like someone walked up the porch steps in the middle of the night. Lemon, mango, nectarine, kiwi. I'd lay them out on the kitchen table every February 15th, stare at them trying to see a pattern. Colors, shapes, first letters, BAPOLMNK, gibberish. I quit the warehouse job for a bit, took up odd handyman work so I could stay home more, watch the mailbox. Girlfriend I had back then left after I snapped at her for touching the box. Said I was obsessed, maybe. But these were from Lily. Had to be. Who else knew about the missing apostrophe? The torn edges? I searched online forums, missing kids groups, posted anonymously about the envelopes. Got a few replies, cranks mostly, saying it was a sign she was alive, or ghosts, or government crap. One guy said it sounded like a cipher, suggested arranging the images by size or origin. Tried that. Nothing. I kept going to work, kept paying the rent, kept breathing, but the days blurred together except for that 1 week in February when everything sharpened again. I started keeping a journal, writing down every detail. Date received. Time I opened it. What the image was. What the weather was like that day. What I ate for dinner. I thought if I wrote it all down, some pattern would emerge. It never did. The journal just got thicker, pages filled with my handwriting getting shakier each year. Then the images shifted. Iguana, jackal, kangaroo, lion. Animals now. Starting with IJKL. Waited for the pattern to break, but it didn't. Mandrill, narwhal, ostrich. The first letters kept coming. BAPOLMNKIJKLMNO. Almost like banana poke or something, but rearranged. I spent nights rearranging, anagrams, searching online. Poke, like the president? No. Blank limo or pink Lambo. Stupid. Then one night last summer it hit me. The images weren't random. Bananas curve like a river bend. Apples stem a road. Pears shape matching a trail marker. Printed them life-size. Cut along the tiers. Started fitting. The fruits formed a row. Then the animals below. When I stepped back, the whole thing looked like a map. Curved lines from the tiers. Images filling spaces. The ostrich beak pointed to a spot in the woods behind her old school. The same woods they searched for months. I sat there staring at it until the sun came up, coffee gone cold, hands shaking so hard I could barely hold the pieces together. I didn't tell anyone, not the police, not my ex-wife. I just drove out there the next day, alone, with the shoebox in the passenger seat. I parked at the edge of the access road, walked the trail with a flashlight even though it was daylight, heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. The clearing was still there, the oak tree bigger now, roots thicker. I dug with my hands at first, then a stick, then the tire iron from the trunk. 2 feet down, hit metal. Small box, rusted, padlocked. Broke it open with the iron. Inside, a locket with Lily's photo, a lock of her hair, a note in her handwriting. "Dad, I'm sorry. He said it was a game. Don't open until Valentine's Day. I love you." I sat there in the dirt until dark, box in my lap, staring at the note. Called the police from the car. They came, took it, said they'd test it, reopened the case. Said the handwriting matched samples from her schoolwork. Said the locket was the one she wore every day. Said they'd search the woods again with ground-penetrating radar this time. Said they were sorry they hadn't believed me sooner. I drove home with the box empty in the passenger seat, the locket around my neck now, cold against my skin. Haven't taken it off since. The weight of it against my chest is constant, a reminder that she was real, that she was here, that she tried to tell me something. I haven't slept since. The envelope for this year hasn't come yet. I keep checking the mailbox, waiting for the familiar clatter, waiting for the next piece of the map or whatever it is. If it comes, I'll open it on the 14th like always. But this time I know it's not a prank. It's her. She's been trying to tell me something all along, piece by piece, year by year. I just don't know if I want to hear the rest. I don't know if I can stand what comes next. The knot in my stomach is tighter than ever, and the mailbox sits there quiet, waiting. I keep telling myself maybe this year it stops. Maybe she finally got her message through. But deep down, I know it won't. Not until whatever she's pointing to is found. Not until I walk into those woods again and see what's been waiting 16 years for me to look. I keep the porch light on now, even during the day. I don't know who or what might be watching back. I just know I'm not ready for the next envelope, but I'll open it anyway. Because if it's from her, if she's still out there somewhere trying to reach me, I can't be the one who stops listening. I keep her old drawings on the fridge now, the ones I used to keep hidden. I talk to them sometimes, quiet, when the house is empty. I tell her I'm sorry. I tell her I'm still looking. I tell her I love her. And I wait for the mail slot to clatter again. I wait for the next torn piece, the next clue, the next chance to bring her home. I don't know what I'll find when the map is complete. I don't know if I'll survive it. But I keep waiting. I keep checking. I keep breathing. Because stopping would mean admitting she's gone for good, and I'm not ready to do that. Not yet. Not ever. I've hated Valentine's Day for as long as I can remember, but not for the usual reasons. It isn't the couples on Instagram or the overpriced chocolates or the way the holiday rubs loneliness in your face like a wet towel. For me, it's quieter than that, colder, something that sits in the chest and doesn't leave when the calendar turns to March. I'm 38 now, living alone in a one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat, the kind of place where the dryer vents hum all night and the smell of fabric softener seeps through the floorboards. I work nights at a call center, troubleshooting printers for people who yell at me like I personally designed the error codes. I come home at dawn, sleep through the day, wake up when the world is already winding down again. It's a life built to avoid people as much as possible. Most years that works. Valentine's Day is the exception. Every February the box appears, always on the 13th, always left outside my door like a delivery no one signed for. Red heart-shaped cardboard, ribbon frayed at the edges, a single dead violet tucked under the lid. I don't open them anymore. I used to. I can't anymore. The last one I opened was 8 years ago, and whatever was inside still wakes me up some nights with the smell of rust and decay in my nose. I keep them stacked in the closet now, lids taped shut, because throwing them away feels like admitting she's still winning. Because she is. The stack is taller every year, the cardboard more warped from humidity, the violets more brittle when I accidentally brush against them reaching for a coat. I don't look inside. I don't need to. I know the pattern. I know what she leaves. I know the weight of each one before I even pick it up. How the heavier ones mean something bigger, something she's been saving, something that's been waiting longer than the others. It started when I was 13, middle school, new town after my dad took a factory job 2 counties over. I didn't know anyone. The kids were cliquey, mean in the casual way middle schoolers are when they've known each other since kindergarten. I got the nickname Ralph and Ralphie after I threw up during a 9/11 assembly. Waffles and nerves and bad timing. The name stuck. I learned fast to keep my head down. Clayton Matthews made sure of it. He was the quarterback, rich parents, the kind of kid who could punch you in the stomach and then tell the teacher you started it. He stole my lunch money the first day, told me not to snitch. I didn't. I never did. He'd corner me in the halls, shove me into lockers, whisper things about my dad working the line like some kind of joke only he understood. I took it. I always took it. I told myself it was easier that way. If I fought back, he'd make it worse. If I told a teacher, he'd make it worse. So I swallowed it, day after day, until it felt normal to flinch when someone walked too close behind me. I'd eat lunch in the library instead of the cafeteria, head down in a book, pretending the pages could block out the laughter from the tables outside the door. The librarian noticed, asked if everything was okay. I said yes. She didn't push. Nobody pushed. That was the year I learned silence was safer than words. Valentine's Day that year was supposed to be nothing. No cards passed out like in elementary school, no forced exchanges. Just another day to survive. I sat in homeroom doodling in my notebook, watching the popular kids pair off with last-minute plans. I liked a girl named Harper, locker neighbor, quiet smile, never spoke to me. I never would have said anything. Then Grace walked up. She was new too, transferred in a few months earlier. Always dressed like she was attending a funeral from a century ago. Black lace collar, heavy clogs, hair hanging over her face so you rarely saw her eyes. Kids called her Morticia, coffin girl, whatever hurt most. She never reacted, just stared until they backed off. She slid an old-looking Valentine across my desk. A bear holding what looked like a real heart, edges water-damaged, ink faded. Inside she'd drawn, Valentine, yes/no, in careful block letters. I stared at it too long. Chucky, the kid with thick glasses who once gave me a Spider-Man Valentine nobody else took, watched from a few rows over and shrugged like it was neutral news. Grace waited, head tilted, eyes hidden behind that curtain of hair. I circled yes with my pencil. Not because I liked her, because saying no felt meaner than I could manage that day. She took the card back, whispered, "Nice," and walked away. I thought that was it. It wasn't. She started sitting next to me in classes we shared, passed notes asking random things, favorite color, green, favorite animal, wolf, favorite food, pizza. It was awkward but not awful. She seemed interested, like she was studying me. When she asked how many teeth were in the human mouth, I thought it was another weird question. 32, I wrote back. She smiled, small and strange, and nodded like I'd passed a test. She'd lean in close when she passed notes, close enough I could smell the faint chemical sweetness of her shampoo mixed with something metallic I couldn't place. I told myself it was just the old building, old pipes or something. I didn't ask. I started answering more. Not because I wanted to, but because it was easier than ignoring her. She never pushed, never got angry if I took too long to reply. She just waited. Patient. Always patient. One day in science she asked what I thought about promises. I wrote back they were important if you meant them. She nodded, folded the note carefully into her pocket, and didn't say anything else that class. I didn't think much of it then. I should have. The next day Clayton cornered me after school. Dragged me into a field with his friends Fred and Nick watching. He had a Valentine card in his hand. To Harper, from Ralph, I love you. Not my handwriting, not my card. He said he found it in her locker, said I was sneaking around, said I was a rat. I tried to explain. He punched me in the stomach, then the face. I hit the ground hard, everything went black for a second. When I came to, Grace was kneeling over me in the rain. She swiped blood from my lip, looked at it on her finger, then licked it. Said it tasted sweet. Said I had nice blood. I was too dazed to react. She asked if Clayton should be taught a lesson. I mumbled something about wishing he couldn't talk anymore. She pinky promised we'd be each other's only Valentine. I was too hurt and tired to argue. I picked a violet from the grass and gave it to her. "Happy Valentine's Day," I said through a split lip. She took the flower, held it close to her face, inhaled like it was perfume. Then she smiled, real this time, small but real, and walked away into the rain. I lay there until the bell rang, until kids started pouring out of the building, until someone finally helped me up. I told them I fell. They didn't believe me, but they didn't push. I walked home alone, face throbbing, tasting blood every time I swallowed. My parents flipped when they saw me, demanded names. I said it was an accident. They didn't buy it, but I wouldn't give Clayton up. Not because I was scared, because I didn't want it to get worse. I didn't want Grace to think I needed her to fix it. I didn't want her to think I'd asked for more than a promise. The next morning, my locker was decorated with a green ribbon. Inside was a heart-shaped candy box. I opened it, expecting chocolates. Instead, Clayton's tongue lay in the middle, tied with red ribbon. Around it, 32 teeth, some chipped, some still bloody, scattered like spilled marbles. The wrappers were empty. Grace stood behind me when I turned, said he'd never bother me again, said it was what I wanted. Her fingers were dark with dried blood. The hallway filled with screams. Teachers pushed through. Security ran. Grace disappeared into the crowd. Later, they said she'd lured him out the night before, knocked him out with nitrous oxide from her father's dental office, cut out his tongue while he was delirious, pulled every tooth with pliers. It took hours. They arrested her outside the school, screaming, pounding on the cruiser windows. Clayton survived, barely, transferred to a private school. His parents sued the district, sued her parents, moved away. Grace went to juvenile detention. I never saw her again. I never used that locker again. I stopped going to class for weeks. My parents pulled me out, homeschooled me until high school. The nickname Ralph and Ralphie died with the story of what happened to Clayton. Nobody wanted to say it anymore. Nobody wanted to look at me. I didn't blame them. I couldn't look at myself either. I kept replaying that moment in the field, the rain, the violet, the pinky promise. I kept telling myself I didn't mean it. I kept telling myself it was just words said when I was bleeding and scared. Words don't mean anything when you're 13. Words can't make someone do what she did. That's what I told myself. That's what I still tell myself some nights when the dryer hums below me and the apartment feels too small. The police questioned me for hours that day, asked if I knew what she was planning, asked if I helped. I told them no. Told them about the notes, the questions, the promise. They nodded, wrote it down, said it wasn't my fault. But their eyes said something else. My parents sent me to a therapist. I sat in an office with soft chairs and tissue boxes, staring at the floor while a woman asked how I felt. I said fine. I wasn't. I dreamed about teeth for months, falling out, scattered on the ground like raindrops. I woke up checking my mouth in the mirror, counting them in the dark. I started brushing twice as hard, flossing until my gums bled like if I kept everything clean enough nothing bad could grow back. I thought it was over. I thought time would bury it. I moved out at 18, got jobs, kept my head down, avoided relationships, avoided holidays, especially Valentine's Day. I told myself if I stayed quiet, if I stayed alone, she'd forget. She'd move on. She'd find someone else to fixate on. I was wrong. I tried dating once in my 20s. A girl from work, normal, laughed at my bad jokes. We went out a few times. Then on February 13th, an envelope appeared on my car windshield. No box. Just the card. Do not open until Valentine's Day. I opened it anyway. Inside was a photo of us at dinner the week before, her face scratched out with something sharp. On the back, pinky promise. I stopped seeing her. Told her I wasn't ready. She thought it was her. It wasn't. I moved apartments, got a new job. But the boxes found me. Always. Then last year the box appeared outside my apartment door. Red heart-shaped cardboard, ribbon frayed, one dead violet tucked under the lid. I froze in the hallway. My pulse hammered so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. I carried it inside, set it on the counter, stared at it for an hour. Finally, opened it. Inside was a single pinky finger, severed clean, nail painted black, tied with red ribbon. A note underneath in careful block letters. "You pinky promised." I called the police. They took it, tested it, said no prints, no DNA match in the system. Said it could be a prank. Said they'd look into Grace's status. She'd been released years ago, records sealed, last known address a halfway house 2 states away. They couldn't find her. Couldn't rule out that it was her. Couldn't rule out anyone. They told me to change my locks, get a camera, stay vigilant. I did all of it. The camera shows nothing. Static for the hour it was delivered. The locks are new. It doesn't matter. She still gets in. I tried moving again after that. Packed everything in boxes, found a place 3 hours away, paid cash for the deposit. The 1st February there, the box was waiting on the welcome mat. Same ribbon, same violet. I didn't open it. I taped it shut and added it to the stack. I started sleeping with the bat next to the bed, handle up, within reach. I stopped answering the door unless I was expecting something. I stopped ordering delivery. I stopped going out at all on the 13th. I stopped living like someone who believed the world was safe. This morning, another box was outside my door. Same red cardboard, same ribbon, same dead violet. I haven't opened it yet. It's sitting on the kitchen counter now, the smell of decay already starting to leak out. I'm writing this under the table lamp because I can't sit upright anymore. My hands shake too much. My breathing feels shallow. I keep hearing footsteps in the hallway outside, slow and deliberate, then nothing. I know it's her. I know she kept the promise. I know she waited 16 years for me to break mine. I don't know what's in the box. I don't want to know, but I know I'll open it tonight. Because if I don't, she'll keep coming back. And next time, it might not be a finger. Next time, it might be something I can't ignore. Something that ends it for good. I just want it to stop. I just want to be left alone. But I pinky promised. And Grace never forgets a promise. She's patient. She's always been patient. I remember the way she'd wait for me after class, standing in the hallway with her head down, hair hiding her eyes until I walked past. Then she'd fall in step beside me, silent at first, then asking those small questions like she was collecting pieces of me. Favorite color? Favorite food? How many teeth in the mouth? I answered because it was easier than not answering. I answered because part of me liked being noticed, even if it was by someone who scared me a little. Even if it was by someone who looked at me like I was a puzzle she needed to solve. I told her things I never told anyone else. Small things. Stupid things. The kind of things you say when you think no one's really listening. But she was. She always was. One afternoon in science, she asked what I thought about promises. I wrote back they were important if you meant them. She nodded, folded the note carefully into her pocket, and didn't say anything else that class. I didn't think much of it then. I should have. After Clayton, after the box, after the arrest, I tried to forget her. I told myself she was sick, that the doctors would fix her, that juvenile detention would straighten her out. I told myself the promise was just a kid thing, something said in the rain when I was bleeding and scared. I told myself a lot of things. None of them stuck. The school was never the same after that. Kids whispered when I walked by. Teachers looked at me with pity, asked if I needed to talk. I didn't. I just wanted to disappear. My parents took me to a counselor, a guy with glasses and a beard who asked about my feelings. I said fine. He didn't believe me. He asked about Grace, what I remembered, if I knew she was planning it. I said no. He asked about the promise if I felt responsible. I said no. He asked if I was afraid. I said no. Lies, all of them. I was afraid all the time. Afraid to go to sleep. Afraid to walk alone. Afraid to answer questions because maybe my words would make something happen again. The counselor gave me homework. Write down my thoughts. Draw pictures like Lily used to. I did it once. Drew a field in the rain. A girl kneeling, a violet on the ground. Tore it up after. Threw the pieces in the trash. Years later, when I was 25 and living in my first apartment alone, I came home from a graveyard shift and found a small envelope taped to the door. No box that time, just cream paper, same slanted handwriting. Do not open until Valentine's Day. I stood in the hallway staring at it for a long time. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped my keys twice trying to get inside. I left it there, didn't touch it. The next day, Valentine's, I opened it with a kitchen knife because I couldn't use my fingers. Inside was a single photograph, me at 13, sitting at my desk in homeroom, looking down at the Valentine she'd given me. Someone had taken it from behind, close enough to catch the circle around yes in pencil. On the back, in her handwriting, I kept my promise. Your turn. I burned the photo in the sink, watched the edges curl and blacken until there was nothing left but ash. I told myself it was a copy, something from school records, something old. I told myself she wasn't watching. I told myself a lot of things. None of them helped. I started checking the locks more, peeking out the blinds before bed. I stopped going out on February 13th. I called out sick from work every year around then. My boss got used to it. Thought it was depression or something. I didn't correct him. The envelopes kept coming. Not every year at first. Random. One on my car windshield after a date with a girl from work. One slipped under the door after I moved to a new city. Always the same handwriting. Always the same message. The boxes started the next year. Same red cardboard, same ribbon, same violet. First one had a lock of hair. Mine, from when I was 13, same color, same length. I didn't know how she got it. I didn't want to know. I called the police. They took it, said it could be anyone. Said juvenile records were sealed. Said she'd been released. No violations, no parole issues. Said they'd look. They didn't find anything. The next year, another box. My old Spider-Man Valentine from Chucky, the one he'd given everyone. I hadn't seen it in 20 years. It was folded inside, edges frayed, with her handwriting on the back. He didn't need it anymore. I looked Chucky up online after that. Found his obituary, car accident, no details, no foul play. But the date was February 13th. I stopped looking people up after that. I stopped opening them after that. I stack them in the closet, unopened, lids taped. But they keep coming. Every year. Always on the 13th. Always with the violet. Always waiting. I tried throwing one away once. Put it in the dumpster behind the building. Came home from work and it was back on my counter. Ribbon untied, lid askew. I taped it shut and added it to the stack. I moved twice after that. Different cities, different states, didn't matter. The boxes found me. Always the 13th. Always the dead violet, petals curled like fingers. This morning's box is heavier than the others. I can hear something shift inside when I move it. I haven't opened it. I won't until tonight. But I know what's coming. I know she's been patient. I know she's been collecting. Pieces of me, pieces of the people around me, pieces of promises I never meant to keep. I sit here now with the bat across my lap, curtains drawn, doors locked. The laundromat hums below me like it always does. The dryer cycle just finished. Someone's coming up the stairs. Slow footsteps, deliberate, stopping outside my door. I know it's her. I know she kept the promise. I know I broke mine the day I circled no in my head and never said it out loud. I know I'm not alone anymore, and I know I never will be again. The footsteps stop. The doorknob rattles once, soft, like a test. Then silence. I grip the bat tighter. My knuckles are white. My breathing is loud in my ears. The laundromat hums on. The world keeps turning. But in here, time has stopped. In here, it's still February 13th, 13 years old, rain on my face, violet in my hand, pinky hooked around hers. She's patient. She's waiting. And tonight, when I open the box, I'll know exactly what she brought. I'll know exactly what she wants. I'll know exactly how far she's willing to go to keep a promise. And I'll know, finally, that some promises aren't meant to be broken. Some promises are meant to be kept, even if it kills you. The rattle comes again, softer this time. I set the bat down. Walk to the door, my hand on the knob. I know I shouldn't. I know what's on the other side, but I pinky promised. And promises are meant to be kept. The knob turns cold under my palm. The door creaks open. The hallway is empty, but the box is still on the counter. Waiting. Always waiting. I close the door, lock it, sit back down. The footsteps start again. Slow. Deliberate. Circling. I know she's here. I know she's always been here. And I know tonight is the night she stops waiting. I think about that field again, the rain mixing with blood on my lip. I think about the violet wilting in my hand. I think about the promise I made without thinking, without knowing what it meant. I think about all the years I ran, all the apartments, all the jobs, all the silence I built to keep her out. It didn't work. It never works. She's patient. She's always been patient. And promises once made don't break easy. They bend. They twist. They wait. And when they snap, they take you with them. I pick up the box. The weight shifts inside. The smell is stronger now. Rust and decay and something sweeter underneath, like old perfume. I untie the ribbon, lift the lid. Inside is a mirror. Small, cracked, the kind from a compact. My face stares back, older, tired, eyes hollow. Tied around it with red ribbon is a pinky finger. Not mine. Not yet. A note underneath. Your turn. The footsteps stop outside the door again. The knob rattles. I set the box down. Pick up the bat. Wait. She's patient. But so am I. Tonight we'll see who keeps the promise. Tonight we'll see who snaps first. I sit back down, bat in hand, listening. The laundromat hums. The world keeps turning. But in here, everything has stopped except the waiting. The waiting has been going on for 16 years. Tonight it ends. Tonight one of us keeps the promise. Tonight one of us pays. I think about Grace in that hallway, hair hanging over her eyes, waiting for me to walk past. I think about the way she collected my answers like they were pieces of a map only she could read. I think about the way she smiled when I circled yes, small and strange and real. I think about the way she looked at Clayton's tongue in the hallway, satisfied, like she'd finally given me what I asked for. I think about the way she looked at me through the cruiser window, eyes finding mine in the crowd, not scared, not sorry, just certain. I think about the pinky promise. I think about the violet. I think about the words I mumbled in the rain. I think about how promises don't die when you stop believing in them. They wait, and they always come back. The doorknob turns slowly. The door creaks open an inch. I stand up, bat raised, heart pounding in my ears. She's here. She's kept her promise. Now it's my turn.